Hey guys, it's Kevin again. This is my review for Teen Wolf Season 4, Episode 3, Muted. And this was the best episode of the season so far. I absolutely love this episode. It really shows the changes in the show because we got introduced to a couple new characters in this episode. A couple things happened in this episode. I'm really looking forward to seeing what happens next because I really enjoyed this episode overall. So let's just get to it because overall I thought it was really good. So we're introduced to a new character in the first 5 minutes of the episode. We see a guy named Shawn outside, and he's calling for his cat. And he heads back inside and he locks the door and calls out for his mom, who doesn't answer him either. Turns off the lights, heads to bed, and it's really creepy right away, which is really good. I love it when Teen Wolf's really creepy. He turns off the lights, heads to bed, he notices footprints on his rug, and finds his cat under his bed covered in blood, and he hears screaming, runs back into the hallway, and there's an axe-wielding man in the hallway, and he says, "Hello, Shawn. I just killed your family. Do you want to die like them, or do you want a chance? Wrap a towel around your hand and smash the mirror. Use the glass shards to defend yourself. Are you ready? Here I come." The creepy Axeman with probably one of the creepiest villains of all time. The creepy Axeman then comes with no mouth. This creature has no mouth, so it's really creepy. Kicks in his bedroom door, realizes he has jumped out of his bedroom window, and escaped. So that was really crazy. That was probably one of the creepiest beginning scenes we've had in Teen Wolf, definitely. So, meanwhile, then we see at the hospital, Scott's mom, Melissa, is finishing her shift when Shawn falls through the front door with his hands covered in blood, and Shawn is in shock and isn't speaking to anyone, and Melissa heads to the morgue with Stiles' dad to check out his parents' bodies, and she's relieved the wounds are from axe and not claws or fangs, and Scott and Stiles can have the day off, because Stiles' dad is sure the wounds aren't from something supernatural, so they're good. Now, Scott and Stiles, meanwhile, are heading to Lacrosse practice. Yes, we're back to Lacrosse, and it's been a long time since we've seen them in Lacrosse. They didn't have Lacrosse at all last season, pretty much because it wasn't really a big thing, but this season, the whole theme is can't go back, so they're back to Lacrosse, and they find this new freshman named Liam in the goalpost, and Stiles is very shocked when he catches every single goal while playing goalie. Liam is very good at this, and Stiles corners him in the locker room and is sure that he isn't human. He questions Liam about how he got so good, and Liam insists he just practiced. So Stiles is kind of jealous of Liam right now. He's kind of jealous. So yeah, that was definitely a really big thing. By the way, there were a ton of plots in this episode. I don't know why there were so many plots, but there were a ton of plots in this episode. Now, it's time for Lacrosse tryouts, and Coach Finstock makes an announcement in the locker room that all positions are open. And as Stiles sweats through tryouts, he is still convinced that Liam is not human. And Scott thinks he might just be good. And Malia and Kira watch from the stands in the meantime. And Scott is having an off day. He couldn't get a single ball in the net. And Stiles wants him to use a tiny bit of wolf power so that the new freshman doesn't come in and steal all of his glory. And, basically, now Kira is kind of confused because she thought Scott was supposed to be good at lacrosse. And Malia bets the coach $10 that Scott and Stiles can take on Liam, and Scott then knocks Liam in the air and he falls, and his leg makes a crushing sound, and Scott and Stiles then rush in the nurse's office, and the scenes with the coach, they're always so funny. I thought what Malia did with him was really clever. I thought that was really funny, actually. And basically, Coach Finstock then flips out, throws a lacrosse ball in the stands, and Kira reaches up and catches it effortlessly. She throws it back to the coach and knocks the wind out of him. He croaks, someone asks her if she has ever played lacrosse, and drops it to the ground. So yeah, that was definitely very funny. So, I thought that was a very funny scene before. Now, in the meantime, before this had happened, basically... So yeah, that was definitely very funny. Basically, before then, Stiles, Scott, and Kira, they received texts about the axe murder in Beacon Hills, and Stiles wants to go check it out, and doesn't understand why his friends want to spend all day in school. They want to try to figure out what's going on here. So, basically, they then take Liam to the hospital, and, one of Stiles' deputies finds Lydia in the house where the axe murderers take place. Now, as we know, this weird thing keeps happening with Lydia so far this season. She randomly stands in places where axe murderers are being taken place. We don't know why this is happening, but basically, if she's looking for dead bodies, then she's a little late, and she sees faces imprinted on a wall. And by the way, I love that Stiles is back to just being funny this season. I do like that. But in the meantime, she does see a face imprinted on a wall. And she presses on it, and it reveals a hidden door leading down a long passageway, and the deputy then draws his gun, heads down the tunnel with Lydia behind him. He turns on the light, and the room is full of frost and plastic bags hanging from the ceiling, and he thinks it is a gang bunker full of deer meat, and he unzips one of the bags, and he finds a dead woman. And that's really creepy. So at the hospital, Melissa is trying to get Shawn, basically to eat something, and she heads up to the lobby and finds Scott and Stiles with Liam. And Stiles says he has to go help Malia study. More about that when we get to Malia's plot. And he reassures Scott that it isn't his fault that Liam got hurt before he leaves. Basically, that was definitely a very big thing. Now, Scott receives a phone call from Lydia, who is panicking. She says they need to find Shawn McCoy, and Melissa heads into the hospital room and finds Shawn eating on the floor. He's eating the intestines of the guard that was left to protect him. That's really creepy, honestly. That's just really creepy. His eyes are yellow and he growls, "I couldn't help it. I was just so hungry." And he says, "I think I'm ready to talk now." He starts grabbing Melissa. Scott arrives and saves her, and Shawn gets away. Melissa tells him to go get that son of a bitch. And Shawn then grabs Liam, takes him up to the roof of the building, and he's about to kill Liam. So Scott chases after him. Shawn tries to throw Liam over the... Now, honestly, I thought Shawn was going to be one of our big characters of the season. However, he tries to throw Liam off over the roof, and Scott grabs his hand the last minute. Scott panics while trying to fight Liam off and knows that he can't hold on to Liam, and he is going to fall to his death. So, because he knows he's going to die, Scott decides the best thing to do is to turn him into a werewolf, which he does. He then hits the ground so he won't die. However, the axe killer with no mouth appears out of nowhere and then kills Shawn. So, Shawn is dead, and Scott is able to pull Liam back on the roof, and the damage has already been done, though, and Scott has already bit Liam. So, I thought that was really big, right? That was a really big, really big thing in the episode. I really thought that was great, a great thing in the episode. I loved, the main plot of this episode. That was really great. I was surprised that Shawn died in this episode. I thought he was going to be a big character in this episode, and that ended up not happening. So I thought that was going to happen, and it didn't. Let's go to Kira. Kira had a pretty big plot in this episode. Kira finds out that her parents, basically, if you remember, when Kira was first introduced on the show, we found out she was only going to be in school, temporarily. It wasn't going to be forever. Her mom explained to her that they're actually moving back to New York, and she knew Beacon Hills was just temporary, and she argues that she wants to stay with her friends, and her mom tells her that there'll be plenty. Now, her mom knows that she likes Scott, definitely, but she tells her that there'll be plenty more boys in her life. So what ends up happening next is, basically what ends up happening next is that, Scott actually ends up kissing Kira, surprisingly. It's when I get that text, Scott goes to kiss Kira, and she's, very surprised. Scott's just like, "What did I do?" But it turns out, as Malia and Kira are watching in the stands, Malia says to her, and I really like Malia's advice, she said to her, "What do you want? You have to listen to your heart. What do you want it to be? Do you want it to just be a fling or something more?" And Kira confesses to her that she does want to be with Scott. She does want something more. And after this happens, Kira waits outside the locker room for Scott, and he finally comes out and says he has to take Liam to the hospital. He apologizes for kissing her in the hallway, and says he never wanted to make things awkward or weird between them. And, I think they're together now. It seems like they're together now, and honestly, that's a good thing. I'm happy they're together. However, her parents are really furious with her when they realize no one came to their open house because she actually destroyed the sign in their front yard. So that's obviously not a good thing. So I'm thinking Scott and Kira, they might be together now. We'll have to see what happens there. But that was basically Kira's plot. I thought it was a good plot overall. Now, as far as Malia goes, as we know, Malia, in the meantime, she is just starting to become a human. She's still learning what to do. And just like last week, she gets called up to the board to do a sample project. And Lydia is also called up to the board and helps her through it. And Stiles and Scott and Kira, that's when Scott and Kira all receive texts about the axe murderer. And then, as we know, Stiles had to go study with her. And it turns out they're actually making out, which I do like Stiles and Malia together. I've said this before, I do like them together. And Malia shows Stiles the notes that Lydia gave her. And basically, he asks, oh, what's up with all the highlighters? And I thought this was kind of cute. She says that green is for things that she knows, yellow is for things that she's unsure about, and red is for things that she doesn't know. And there's more red than anything. Now, Stiles realizes that it isn't math that it's not math she's been scribbling. She's been scribbling codes that don't make any sense. So, what are these codes? I don't know. We're going to have to see in the next episode what these codes are. But Malia's plot I thought was also very strong. I really enjoyed her plot in this episode, and I thought it was definitely very interesting. Now, the last thing to talk about really is Brayden and Derek. Basically, as we know, they were trying to Peter lost that money from last week. Peter and Derek hire Brayden to track down Kate so that they can get their money back. But she charges them a lot of money to find Kate for them instead of for the Cavaliers, basically. So Brayden flashes a badge at the police station and says she is a U.S. Marshal and asks for the case file on the axe murderer. So that was definitely very interesting. So Brayden reports back to Derek with the axe murder file, and she says the weapon used to kill Shawn's family was an army-issued tomahawk. And Derek doesn't think the axe murderer had anything to do with Kate. But Brayden tells him to trust her, and he says she has 1 week to prove to him that it had something to do with that. However, we do kind of see that Brayden and Derek have a lot of chemistry. I don't know what's going to happen with them in the future, but they could have a lot of chemistry. They could possibly have something. We're going to have to see what happens there, but basically, we've been introduced to our new villain of the season, we've been introduced to our new character of the season, and I feel like from here it's only going to get more interesting. Now, let's talk about some things that happened in this episode. Okay, so we met Liam in this episode. How do I think he's going to be? I think he is eventually going to be... Now, I heard about this from Emergency Awesome. Stiles and Scott are going to mentor him, like Derek did with Scott. However, they're going to do a better job because they are much more mature than Derek was when he mentored Scott. You know, they're going to do a much better job at mentoring Liam at being a very good, werewolf. It's going to be interesting to see what happens with him. Now, is Shawn necessarily dead, or is he some sort of a werewolf? Do we know that he is dead? I really don't know, because on Wolf Watch, they said he's either dead or he's going to turn into a werewolf. So we're going to have to see what happens there with Shawn. As we know, Liam, though, was bit, so Liam's now going to be a werewolf. I don't know if Shawn's going to stick around any longer. We'll have to see what happens there. But that was definitely very, very interesting. The other big thing that we're not really getting answers about is Lydia. What is going on with Lydia? Now, when Lydia was talking to the whatever you call it, when she was talking to, who was she talking to? The deputy, she kind of said to him that she thinks she's psychic because she always ends up in these places with these dead bodies. She doesn't know why she ends up there or the reasons why. She just knows that wherever she is, she always shows up where these dead bodies are. She doesn't know why they're there or whatever, but all she knows is that they are there and she keeps showing up there. Why? We don't know. We're going to see what happens in the next episode, but also, what's going on with Malia? What are those codes that she are scribbling into her notebook? What does that have to do with anything? We're going to have to see what happens there. Are Scott and Kira together? I hope they are together. I like that they really deepen the relationship in this episode. They lied to us. They said they weren't going to show anything big with the relationships this year. But Scott and Malia, Stiles and Malia made out in this episode, and Scott and Kira are probably together now. We'll have to see what happens there. Is Kira going to move back? We're going to have to see what happens. I don't know. I kind of feel like that's going to be the finale, is that Kira ends up moving back to New York, and Scott and Kira have to have, like, a long-distance relation. I don't know. We're going to have to see what happens there, but it's going to be interesting to see what happens there, definitely, if Kira does end up moving to New York. I'm interested in seeing if she's going to. Brayden and Derek, I feel like they had a lot of chemistry in this episode. I don't know about you guys, but I feel like they had a lot of chemistry in this episode. I just really felt a lot of chemistry between them. I don't know what it was, but I just felt like they had a lot of chemistry, in my opinion. I don't know what it was, but I just feel like they did. What did you guys think about that? Overall, it's going to be interesting to see what ends up happening there, who took their money, things like that. I do think we're going to see Kate again. We didn't see Kate in this episode, but I definitely think we are going to see her again. That's not just going to randomly end. They can't just randomly end it from there because of what happened last week. We know there's going to be more with that. I like that they brought Lacrosse back in this episode. It kind of made the episode more lighthearted. Even though the episode was, like, very dark at points, it was also very lighthearted. I like that about the season. They're not making it too dark. Last season was the darkest season. It had to be dark because of the storylines. But this season, they're really trying to have that good combination of darkness and comedy, and I think they're doing a very good job at doing that. I definitely enjoy that they're doing that. I think they're definitely just doing a very, very good job at doing that. We also now have our villain, the benefactor, this axe murderer. Now, apparently he does, we are going to see more of him. I'm interested in seeing, what he has to do with the guy that took their money, because we know that, Brayden told them that the axe murderer is responsible for taking their money and something with Kate, so what does he have to do with Kate? Well, you're going to have to see what he has to do with Kate, but he definitely has something to do with Kate. We don't know what it is, but he has something to do with her. We're going to have to see what happens, but overall, I love this episode. I thought this was a fantastic episode. But that's it for my review. I hope you guys enjoyed it, and I will see you guys in my next video, which will either be for Pretty Little Liars or another classic movie, so I'll see you guys for that. Okay, bye.